joining this webinar on defense tech. So we are a SIGTech are constantly looking for industries where innovation happens, and in a lot of breakthrough technologies are like always exciting for investors as well. And a few sectors are evolving as rapidly as defense tech lately. And advancement happen in multiple different areas, from AI to health, cybersecurity, autonomous systems, or dual use technologies that shape the future of security and global stability. And we believe as SIGTech, we want to back like the best founders who come up trying to address some of those complex challenges. Um, and today we dive into this, and it's usually a space that historically has been dominated more like by governments or like large defense contractors, but it's now seeing a huge surge of venture-backed activities where like a lot of startups that are like working on addressing some of these challenges are able to grow due to private money that comes in. So today we'd like to cover a bit like the trends that are happening in this space and also the role of private capital that's going on from like a global perspective. And what are the challenges and opportunities for startups and also for investors? And of course, also how investors could navigate the sectors, not just from a financial perspective, but also from an ethical standpoint. We have today like two exciting speakers that I will introduce in a sec. So this is an interactive session. Please feel free to drop questions you have in the chat, and we will address them at the end of the presentation part. We'd like to make sure like you have a chance to get the feedback from our great presenters today, and there will be a follow-up email and a recording. So in case you like don't want to write down everything, no worries. There will be more details in an email later today. So first of all, I'm part of SIGTech. We are like the biggest angel club in Switzerland, and we are like the leading nonprofit organization here with like 400 members, and we try to cover all kind of verticals and industries to make sure like where innovation is happening, that those business and startups have the opportunity to get started. So we're not taking anything from the startup. They have an opportunity and platform to meet the investors that we have in our community and make sure they can move on quickly and spend not too much time just looking for money. We also do a lot of like education, making sure that more investors coming into the space have already an angel handbook out and launch a new version. So if you want to join and have a look at it, please just scan the QR code. We also do a lot of events in multiple different areas and also physically. We do like a medtech event. In March, we have a food tech event. In April, have specific themes around insurtech, AI, work closely with universities and other big institutions. So there's a lot more that we do. It's not just all virtually on webinars. You're more than happy also to join some of our events physically. And we are also, as we have a lot of new people here joining us today, always happy if you would like to support innovation and startups. And we offer for those new ones the opportunity to join for a discounted price for the rest of the year. So now let's move on to our speakers for today. And I'm very happy to introduce two speakers. The first one will be Erik Prince. So he is the founder and CEO of Blackwater. It's one of the big private military companies in the US and founder of all Unplugged Technologies with a background as the US Navy SEAL officer. So really excited to hear his perspective on what's happening in the space. And we have as a second speaker today, Lital Leshem, who is co-founder, managing partner of Protego Ventures. She's an American Israel entrepreneur, one of the Forbes 30 Under 30 awardee and founding member of the UAE Israel Business Council. and the founder also of a startup that worked on emergency communication technology. So like incredible background also that we hear from the venture space. Protego Ventures is a 200 million defense fund, and Lital has also a lot of experience from IDF. Um, Without further ado, I would like to hand over now to Erik. We'll start with his perspective, and I'm stopping sharing now. Erik, are you good to go?
Yeah, good morning.
The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So I think as you've seen in the Ukraine fights, the acceleration of warfare has really continued, and the um, the democratization of precision strike enabled by very small drones. I'd say the smartest thing that Zelensky did was open up the national armories when the Russians invaded, and it put the hands of defense into all the people. And a lot of people responded with, defense innovation at the micro level. I think it's important to remember that even in the Soviet times, 40 to 50% of the innovation, their big rockets, their anti-tank missiles, their aircraft engines, all came from Ukraine. So there's a lot of smart people there. And now when those smart people are under attack, they innovated very quickly at the edge. And what's happened with, at the end of World War II, the U.S. had the strategic offsets, the advantages they were trying to build to overmatch their opponents. And the first was nuclear strike, and then became precision strike. And now you have precision strike that is truly proliferated down to everyone that can do it out of their garage. And so what the Ukrainians have developed with small FPV drones, with a 3D printer about the size of a beer can, a small charge that can be flown out to 15 kilometers and flown into the vulnerable parts of a tank. So a $500 drone with a new software brain with a 3D printed charge that total cost is less than $1,000 is taking out multi-million-dollar main battle tanks. It's truly a revolution in warfare. To the point now that they have drones that drop other drones to kill enemy drones, or the ability to do signals intelligence on the battlefield to locate um, uh, significant positions. So that acceleration of warfare, both in the air, on the ground, because they've done that same kind of innovation has also occurred in unmanned ground vehicles, ground combat vehicles for clearing mines, etc. And of course, at sea, you've seen videos of first jet skis adapted to drive as remote control, and now even as truly autonomous. Right? You talk about putting AI on on any of the devices, any kind of auto tracker or autofocus, where you no longer have to control the device, and it's going to seek a target and drive itself into it, is effectively AI processing on the edge. And so that price tag has come way down. The speed, the acceleration of warfare has greatly accelerated. If you shot at the Russians in March of 2022, right after they invaded, it would probably take them an hour and a half to shoot back accurately. Now it's down to 2 to 3 minutes. Like if you shoot at them, you want the vehicle running so that you can drive away quickly, because very soon the area will be saturated with artillery fire. So truly and then parallel to that, as capable as the IDF is and the level of innovation in ballistic missile defense and the Iron Dome defense designed to shoot down incoming rockets, as things were getting heated with Hezbollah, the IDF was having a huge problem with the small, cheap drones being launched from Lebanon. to the point that 50% of them were getting through. So the spectacular high-end intercept capability, yes, that worked great. But the small and cheap innovation, hard to find on radar, flying close to nap of the earth, was punishingly successful. So it speaks to, if the IDF has not had a solution for it yet, and they're working on it. I don't believe it's lasers. I don't believe it's EMPs. I still believe a hard kill air bursting defense, because lasers don't work so well in fog or smoke, but air bursting rounds do. So what you've seen is a massive acceleration of warfare. And so much of this innovation has happened literally in people's garages. And the cycle time of have an idea, build a prototype, test the prototype in combat, and know within 24 to 48 hours whether that was a good idea, and then reiterate back through the garage, is so vastly faster than any kind of development that's happening in the West, anywhere in the West. And it's even, even Russia has accelerated their development. Don't listen to the idiot politicians that say that this war is degrading the Russian army. They're getting significantly smarter and learning from the process. So the innovation that they've learned is applying to all systems, but it also has caused almost a paralysis of the battlefield. In the same way that lines solidified during World War II because of the machine gun and artillery, now you're seeing, which led to the development of a tank, so you could move troops around under that kind of fire. Now you can't move them around in a tank or an armored personnel carrier because there's so many other precision munitions that can target them. And so now you're down to very dispersed troop movements, because anything that can be surveilled can be targeted almost instantly. And so it's made for an extremely lethal battle space, not very survivable. Normally militaries are easy to find and hard to kill. Now everything is easy to find and sadly easy to kill, which speaks to the casualty count, and I would say again the static nature of the lines. So what does it mean? Well, because both sides are largely evenly matched, and they're in a war of attrition right now. And in a war of attrition, math still matters, and that is not to the advantage of the Ukrainians. What it means in other battle spaces, what you saw in December when the Syrian Arab Army, equipped with lots of Russian, fairly modern equipment, was swept from Syria in a matter of 5 days, was the overmatch that happens when you combine modern drone technology, maneuver warfare, and effectively that was the Turkish intelligence and Turkish special operations operating with the rebranded Sunni rebels, which again annihilated the Syrian Arab Army. That's the overmatch you see, and I would predict other black swan, unpredicted events happening of other militaries being swept away, because I'd say this innovation in the battle space is as relevant, as severe of an imbalance as when Genghis Khan put stirrups on horses and enabled the Mongol armies to move from Asia all the way to Hungary and created the largest empire on earth ever, ranging from the Pacific Ocean all the way to Budapest. So I would say stand by. The advantage of offense has really tilted to the small units that can move and maneuver quickly. The defensive measures are a long ways behind right now. And until that equalizes again, there's going to be more black swan event maneuver type things happening. And it's something to watch very closely. because it can disrupt other markets as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Erik, for your perspective. Lital, you would like to continue?
Sure. Let me share my screen. Good.
Yes, all good.
So hello, everyone. It's great to be here today, and thank you for inviting us. My name is Lital. For the next 15 minutes or so, I'll tell you a bit about my background, my personal story, and how we came to establish Protego Ventures, which is the first defense tech VC in Israel. I'm an American Israeli, much more Israeli than American, you can hear by my accent. But I grew up in between Israel to the US. In general, most of my career I spent in the different systems in Israel, about 12 years, 7 of them in the Israeli Defense Forces, in the IDF, as an operational officer, most of them in the Southern Command, specifically in the Gaza Strip Brigade. Also deployed October 7th, but we'll talk about it a bit later. So after 7 years of active service as a major in the Gaza Strip Brigade, I moved to the intelligence community in Israel and spent another 4.5 years there. Made the leap into the entrepreneurial world in 2014 when I founded my first company named Carbine, a company that builds next generation 911 systems and basically completely changes the way people interact with the different emergency authorities and first responders. A company that grew to be about 200 employees. We raised $140 million. Our last round was actually led by AT&T Ventures out of the US. The company has headquarters in New York, R&D is in Israel, growing tremendously and basically saves lives on a daily basis, which is probably my biggest pride. I moved to New York in a relocation in 2017 with Mobileye, an Israeli company that was acquired by Intel with $15.3 billion, a very famous exit here in Israel. I moved to New York. I did a year with them, led the business development and integration into North American market. I fell in love with New York, with Manhattan, not so much with corporate America. So did that for only a year. And afterwards, I joined a private equity led by Erik, actually, called Frontier. Did the strategic partnerships and investment into the defense industry. So we focused a lot on defense, aerospace, aviation, and cybersecurity, AGLS technologies, investing in companies in those fields and helping them scale and penetrate US government and military applications. So did that for a couple of years and then came back to Israel. I came back to Israel at the beginning of 2023. I worked at a Israeli-based VC. And then on October 7th, all of our lives changed, but mine personally. I came back from a business trip a day before on Friday and basically woke up to sirens on October 7th in the morning. I got my order 8 by 7 a.m. in the morning, and by 9 a.m. I was already at the central war room in the Southern Command. Only to learn that everything I figured along, I mean, we got a lot of notifications and a lot of data streaming to our phones in different platforms this morning. I personally thought there was a cyber attack. I could not believe in any way that all of this information is actually true. You know, we had about 5,500 terrorists cross to the Israeli terrain in less than 30 minutes. So imagine Saturday morning, the military is in minimum awareness. They took off all of our cameras, all of our sensors, and basically we were not able to even grasp what was going on in the Gaza envelope. I got to the central war room at 9 a.m. in the morning just to find out that it's not even a fraction of how bad I thought it was. And I started 3 full months of active reserves duty while being 6 months pregnant. This is why I'm wearing tights and not uniform, if you were wondering. But this is actually in the Gaza Strip Brigade, and those pictures that you're seeing right after those next couple of days after October 7th. About a month into the war, I was joined by my partner at our VC, and we traveled the US basically to speak to whoever wanted to hear what was happening in Israel. And through that, we've met a lot of people who wanted to do good for the country. Among those meetings and amongst those conversations, it was very clear to us the opportunity that is arising in the defense industry and the real need happening real time in Israel, which led us to establish Protego Ventures, which is the first investment vehicle or VC focused only on defense tech in Israel. It's going to be a $200 million fund. We already have $100 million committed to it. And we're going to invest in early growth companies, which are companies that already have product market fit and validation and have already produces revenues. Why us and why now? This one actually makes the Israeli ecosystem very, very interesting. I think that Erik touched upon what's happening worldwide. And I'll talk more about what's happening specifically in Israel. But when we look at the Israeli defense tech ecosystem, several factors create a unique environment that constantly drives innovation and impact on the global scale. First is obviously military integration. Israel has a seamless connection between the military, the government, and the tech sectors. Many of our entrepreneurs come directly from elite IDF units, me included, where they've actually faced real operational challenges that actually they have firsthand experience translated into solutions. They're not only technical advanced, but deeply rooted in their practical mission and critical needs. We're seeing a sharp increase in the defense tech startups being established, specifically here in the country. I want to say it's twice as many in 2024 than in 2023. These new founders of those companies are coming directly out of the battlefield with lessons learned firsthand about what's going on in the battlefield, what they need to succeed. Those are all real-time feedbacks, as Erik mentioned earlier, and they drive to secure not only their own units, but actually the country's security. They want to scale to create a safer world, not only just to make money. And I feel this is a very different passion or motivation. The next would probably be the real-time validation. Again, Erik touched upon this earlier, but Israel's geopolitical landscape, while being very challenging, provides a very big advantage. And unfortunately, this war creates a huge advantage in the defense industry. But technologies aren't developed in a vacuum in Israel. They're actually tested, refined, and validated in live environment, if you wish. And this means companies are getting immediate feedback from the field and allowing them to rapidly adopt new solutions in the battle, tested, and then much faster in any other ecosystem. And of course, I guess the big why is Israelis' culture, which is very agile. Israelis are very known for being the startup nations, especially in the defense ecosystem. The minds here are very much resilience, bold thinking, and they have the inner willingness to change the status quo or at least challenge it. A bit about the industry, which I assume most of you know them. But in exports and import and a lot of technology, huge deals that have been made, including the Iron Dome and the Aero 3 that was sold to Germany. The numbers are increasing dramatically. And in Israel, since the country's foundation, the rise of tech-driven defense sectors today is with over 300 small innovative startups. It's a huge shift. This changes dramatically. I want to say early 2000, but more since October 7th and the Russia-Ukraine war. Everything changed. The way we fight wars is not the same anymore. And those entrepreneurs that are getting out of the battlefield, seeing what's challenging and what's wrong, adapting those or developing those new companies and new technologies, addressing the real need, is what everybody is looking to buy. A bit about the VC industry and the defense industry. Those two were parallel for a long time. People would tell you that there is no way the venture capital will go into the defense sector. This is long sales cycles, bureaucracy, regulations, a lot of long procurement processes, things that VC would not feel are too attractive. But because of this paradigm shift that is happening geopolitical wise, the VC has entered the defense industry, recognizing the existing opportunity. And we at Protego talked a lot with the US market, specifically with VCs like Lux Capital and Andreessen Horowitz and Funders Fund, Sequoia, which all announced that they want to invest in Israeli defense tech, recognizing the growth in the market. They're all looking for the right partner locally to have access or the right gateway to approach those different technologies and capabilities, being able to assess them, validate them, and create the best feedback for it. And we're seeing many more local VCs that are establishing in order to address that market. Because again, I want to say that the opportunity is not only ROI. I'm just seeing that you're not seeing me right now. Sorry. Still seeing the presentation?
Yes, presentation is visible and you're back as well.
Okay. Anyway, so local VCs are recognizing the opportunity as well, but Protego is the only Israeli-focused, defense tech-focused VC that is actually already deploying capital. We've made our first investment in a company named Extend, which is a company that creates operating systems for robotics. Their claim to fame is their drone, which is a tactical drone that all of the tactical units here in Israel are using, and they're also selling already with Lockheed Martin to the UK and directly to the DoD, and of course to the Israeli MOD, a company that is doing very, very well and taking technology to the next level and everything that has to do with AI and aerial systems, unmanned aerial systems. I want to say that we're super proud with what we're doing. Again, there's a double bottom line with Protego. It's not only the return on investment, which is again clear with the market growing and the paradigm shift in warfare, but specifically in the Israeli market, creating those technologies that will determine the safety of the country and the resilience of it going forward. So this is me, and this is Protego, and we would love to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Lital, for your perspective. Definitely a very insightful perspective from Erik and Lital today, at least for me. everyone in the webinar today, if you have any additional questions, please add them to the Q&A icon at the bottom. We already have a couple of them, and let's maybe just get started in no particular order. So one question is, how much would it help to consistently take out ISR drones? I think that's a question more for you, Erik.
To knock down, to destroy ISR drones?
I assume so. Yeah, that's the
Well,
question.
look, sure, you always want to try to blind your enemy, and that's why making attritable, lower cost solutions, because the active warfare is expensive, and finding a cheaper, better way to do it. Look, I think it's important to remember there's two things a military commander does: they coordinate information and they release energy, meaning, you know, march that unit from here to there, drive that ship from here to there. The cost of releasing energy in the West has become extraordinarily too high, ridiculously too high. Compare anti-tank missiles. The Javelin anti-tank missile, it's a pretty good system. It's $150,000 per shot from a $200,000 command launch unit. But you don't really use those on the battlefield in Ukraine very much, because the second shot you take, the missiles tend to guide towards the other very hot thing in the battle space, which is the tank that you just destroyed. The Ukrainians use a Ukrainian-made Stugna missile, which costs $29,000, not $150,000. So the order of magnitude of price reduction is real, and the major defense contractors in the United States, and for that matter in mainland Europe, are ridiculously too expensive and are way behind and have been out innovated in pretty much every aspect of what they do.
Thank you for the answer. Let's move on to the next one. Lital, why focus on growth startups in the defense sector? Defense is often very hardware heavy, so getting a working prototype requires capital at an early stage, as government contracts are not given if a working system is not shown.
So the question is, why focus on early growth and not earlier?
On growth startup that require a lot of money to get like first prototypes and hardware up and running.
So early growth is a company that would be already after validation and product market fit. So usually after the regulation phase, a company that already produces revenues and is only looking for capital, I want to say, to scale for growth perspective. So the companies that we're looking at will not be only companies that are in the phase of an idea or have not tested their technology yet, or just tested their technology in the Israeli battlefield. But companies that are already ready to penetrate the global market, specifically the US market, which is our biggest ally. Those would be the companies that would be as interesting to us. Also, our claim to fame at Protego is helping them do that with the US market because of our investors, because of our network, and because of the local platform that we're producing in the US, helping them bridge that gap, scaling into that very big, complex market, which is not easy at all. We want to bring that added value and help them bridge that gap.
Okay. Thank you. Another question for Lital or Erik. What are the areas of defense innovation that you see advancing and maturing and coming into play in the future of war? What areas are underdeveloped and where do we need to see more solutions?
Erik, I can start with what I'm seeing here in Israel. And actually, Erik was involved with a lot of identifying those solutions, one of them being the underground warfare. So we're seeing a lot of emerging companies that are looking on technologies that has to do with underground warfare, with the tunnels that Israel is facing, both from the south and the north. a lot of counter drone, again, because of the problems that Erik mentioned earlier. You can see that in Ukraine and Russia, also in Israel, specifically in the northern border. Those improvised AliExpress drones that are carrying explosive and are very hard for us to dedicate and take off. So eventually Israel today uses an F-35 or an F-16 to take those down. It's not cost efficient at all, and there's a lot of companies that are trying to solve this problem. As Erik said, it will be solved eventually, but it's something that is challenging the local ecosystem. Erik, do you want to add?
Yeah, I would say in an era of AI, the average American kid, by the time they reach the age of 13, has had 72 million data points collected on them. And so I would say an increasing absence of digital privacy is pervasive. And I would say when the last big terror event after 9/11 happened in the United States, the US government started buying advertising data, first analog and then digital. And then when smartphones came out, starting around 2009, the apps that were on those devices were designed in a way to maximize data collection, where you go, what you buy, who you call, what you browse. You actually have an ad ID built into an iPhone and an Android running Google mobile services. It's all built around a universe of data collection and export of your data. And so privacy is becoming almost extinct. The VC thing I've been doing for the last 3 years is it's called an Unplugged phone. This is built. It's built on an Android kernel. It's our hardware called an Unplugged phone. It's our operating system, and at the very root level, we block all the hooks, all the ad trackers, all the things that the app tries to collect on you to export. If you notice, if you speak to your spouse or partner around your smartphone, by the next few hours, you're getting advertising about what you talked about. So imagine your phone sitting on your nightstand in your bedroom, listening to whatever you're talking about with your spouse. It's kind of frightening. So this phone was built as an answer to that because, again, our operating system prevents all that collection. We actually have a privacy center where you can actually block the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, the camera, the microphone, et cetera. It has a self-destruct feature. If someone says, Stefan, give me your phone, I'm here to inspect it, you can unlock it with a certain code, and it's an instant hard wipe. There's actually a kill switch, which separates physically the battery from the electronics to actually turn the device off. You can't turn your devices off. So in an era of bigger and bigger data constantly being collected, it is a multi-billion-dollar industry now. It's why Google and Meta are so large, because if you're not paying for something, you're not the customer, you're the product. And big companies have monetized all of your preferences, all of your activity to sell to advertisers. It's pervasive, and so this phone, an unplugged phone, is an answer to that. And we sell in the United States now, U.S. and Canada. We should be in Europe by October of this coming year with the Unplugged 2.0 device. It actually works perfectly all over Europe now. We just haven't gotten the CE mark.
Thank you. Another question is for Lital. Do you see Israeli defense tech startups scaling and growing enough to become major global companies like Underreal or Palantir?
That's a great question. I can certainly say they aspire to be, and they're trying to go through that working book of those companies, learning from them in order to get to where they've gotten. I want to say that all of those VCs I mentioned earlier, like Lux Capital and Andreessen Horowitz and Sequoia, those are all early investors like 5 or 6 years ago that are investors in the field of defense tech, early investors for Shield AI and Palantir and Anduril as well. They're seeing extraordinary multiples of 20 or 30x, which is a fantasy for VC, for venture capitalists. So on our end, it would be fantastic if those companies will scale to those dimensions. We do see the potential of it because of the growing industry and the trends, and specifically Israel being a leader in the field. But we're still far from there. We will need to gain more data in Israel in order to determine whether those companies can really get to those kind of dimensions. But they're certainly on the right path, and we're going to support them in order to succeed.
Thank you. Another question is around what advice do you have for small dual-use technology startups to approach the US DoD other than collaborating with large traditional US defense companies?
I'll take that one. The large traditional defense companies in America are grotesquely bureaucratic and slow and overpriced. What they charge and what they waste is at almost criminal level. I would try to tailor your product to be used by the only early adopters that have a better pathway for money are the most elite special operations units or the intelligence community. You have a chance of getting purchased on merit there, but selling something to one of the, to the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, bring a lunch, because it's going to be a long time, and that's why there hasn't been much innovation or cost reduction, because the large program office managers in the Pentagon are not incentivized to buy smart or innovative or cheap, cost effective. And so the best ideas end up languishing, and they get purchased for pennies on the dollar by the five super majors. I'd say a goal of the Trump administration is to break up those big five and to make it a more competitive defense marketplace.
Okay. Thank you, Erik. Next question is for Lital. How does the fund control that the weapons or tech produced by its invested companies do not end up in the wrong hands? Beyond intentions, are there ways to track who are the buyers and users of the equipment?
It's also a good question. No, the answer is no. We don't really have a way to track them. We will say that we're not going to focus on lethal capabilities. So the fund is not going to invest in anything that has to do with weapon, ammunitions, missile, more on the defense side of things. So air defense, robotics, AI, deep tech, sensors, things that are more driven by softwares, and not only combinations of software and hardware. But the plain answer is we don't have a way to track anything. Each technology, even if it's dual use, starting in the commercial side and then pivoting into the defense, could have multiple applications in different customers and different markets. Obviously, we would aim to do as much as we can for this different capabilities developing all over the world, that they'll get to the right hands and support the right people, and not the other way around.
Okay. Thank you. Another question is around how do you see Europe in the defense tech space? We see the American perspective, the Israeli perspective. Where is Europe here on the radar?
Erik, that's yours as well.
I think that you have as many countries in Europe still not spending anywhere close to 2% of their GDP on defense. It shows a lack of seriousness. Some of the countries take it very seriously. Poland, obviously, with who their immediate neighbors are, takes it very seriously. Germany has been pathetic and misguided and still not very serious about defense. All of those countries are, I would say most, are far behind what is the cutting edge in the speed, innovation, the lethal precision delivery that autonomous systems can deliver. And again, I say it's a black swan moment, as big as when Genghis Khan put stirrups on horses, allowing men to ride into battle at 40 kilometers an hour while firing arrows. That was an innovation not seen ever before in humanity, and look at the effect it had. So it's probably time for European defense to wake up as well. I'm not saying U.S. The big ones are any better, but structurally, Europe needs to turn its small level entrepreneurs loose to iterate at the speed that the lethality is advancing.
Okay. Another question is, what Erik just said is exactly a point. Funding needs to be at pre-seed and seed already. Otherwise, for good ideas, they die, specifically in Europe. So question to Lital, why not considering funding pre-revenue?
That's a great question. First of all, I want to say the past 3 months, we saw more than 100 companies. Maybe 30% of them are actually early growth. The rest are pre-seed, seed, very early on companies because of the environment, because of the local landscape. We're meeting all of them, first of all, to make this first engagement so we can be in touch with them, know them, connect them to the right investors or the right players in the market if we can help, and then be a later stage player for relevant to them. But we want to collect the data, understand where they're going, the way of thinking, the way they're thinking and their way forward, and be involved. That way we're building this local ecosystem and being a major player in it in the beginning. But specifically for this question, we are debating whether it's worth, after we close the fund, which would be again 200, then allocate about 20% of it to experimental, very early stage companies, just to have skin in the game also in those very early on solutions.
Yeah. Another question that I have is like around health. Do you see some interesting innovations happening in the health space? Like it could be around mental health or like how to deal with injuries or whatever. Have you seen something coming up that has been accelerated with the latest developments around the world?
The amount of defense innovation for health that the U.S. experienced in Iraq and Afghanistan was significant in terms of wound care, keeping people alive, and then especially in brain health afterwards for various therapies, hyperbaric oxygen, a wide range of things to heal brains that have been exposed to a lot of traumatic brain injury. It's been significant and in many cases very, very effective.
In Israel, which is considered to be a nation under trauma right now, and it is, we're seeing a lot of post-trauma healthcare solutions in the defense industry. A lot of them are more private, taking those like nonprofits that are taking groups of soldiers to retreats or the different cares around the world in order to address exactly what they're going through right now. So we're seeing a lot of that. And as Erik mentioned, there's a lot of technologies talking about the exfil situations, about how you transfer wounded people from the battlefield into the hospitals, and how the data or the information is being transferred from the battlefield to the centers of the care, which is also a huge problem here because they're usually by helicopters, and they're being treated in the field, and the data of the wounded that are going straight pretty fast. I mean, they're getting to the hospitals pretty fast, but the data of what they consumed, which where are they hurt, and all of that is not transferring the best way that or the best efficient way that's possible. So there's a lot of solutions around that as well.
Great, thank you. Another question is around robotics. Beyond drones, what kind of developments do you see in the robotics space that's been accelerated?
Erik?
The other area of significant development would be in autonomous underwater systems. Any vessel, any target that can be located can be targeted immediately. And so if it's not below the water, its chances of detection are almost 100%. And so there's a lot of money, effort, focus being put into swarming autonomous systems like that, because for the United States, a Pacific theater is a massive distance logistics challenge, and manned everything for there is an impossible solution.
Yeah, and in general, I want to say that the future of warfare is in robotics. The soldiers will be much more, would be able to send in front of them robots and not themselves, in order to have their life safer as much as they can in those war zones.
Okay. Another question is around like how quickly does innovation is going across the regions and globe. So like, let's say there's a great innovation coming up now in Israel, a great startup doing some things, and like how long does it take until it's been picked up in other parts of the world because it's been seen as so effective? Is it possible to well protect it, basically, that it's not going into the wrong hands?
No, there's leakage everywhere. It's pervasive, and I think you'll see some other black swan events this year.
Yeah.
I think that with the new administration in the US, specifically for Israeli technology, it would be much more efficient and easier to partner with the US. It was very hard in the last couple of years with the administration, with the Biden administration. We feel like it's gonna change right now for the better. It's always gonna have issues of local partners and integrators, and the Israeli companies will always need a US partner, foot on the ground, that would be able to be a design partner or just a local integrator to help them do those local sales. They wouldn't be able to do it directly from Israel. They're quite aware of it. It's a challenge that they're facing, but I do think there is a good collaboration mode from both sides to make it happen.
Yeah. Another question is around, have procurement timelines gotten shorter?
In Israel, definitely. In Israel, because of the necessity and the need.
Yeah.
Well, when you need something the next day, it's the procurement processes are much faster. The sales cycles are faster. The government budgets are increased dramatically, but that's all because we're at war, and all of this necessity creates the opportunity to move very, very fast and have those capabilities deployed as fast as possible.
And another question is around cybersecurity. Like, what's the role of cybersecurity? Is it fair to say that half of the war nowadays happens online and the other half on the field?
Obviously, there's lots of efforts that can be done in the cyberspace, and it has certain asymmetric advantages. But in the words of Adrian Carton-DeWeert, some have said the pen is mightier than the sword, but I know which one I would choose. The cyber tactics can be an enabling and intelligence gathering, or crippling temporarily, but still, military victory is about putting warheads on foreheads.
Agree.
Okay. How do you see the native fund that's been established?
Well-intentioned, so far poorly executed.
Okay. Good. To our audience, are there any other questions that you would like to ask to Lital or Erik? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we're good for now, and also close to the end. from my end, thank you so much, Erik and Lital. It's been really like interesting for me to hear your perspective, and specifically being in Europe, it's like a topic that's sensitive, and it's great to hear how openly you speak about like what's happening around the world and what does it mean in terms of like defense tech, also in the context of innovation and investments. Thank you so much. For everyone in the audience, we will do the follow-up. We receive an email with the recording and like the slides that have been shared, and let us know if you have any additional questions with that. Thanks a lot, everyone, for dialing in, and let us know what you think about the webinar. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.